Assalamu alaikum, Bismillah Rahman Rahim. We started the recording of the session number 6, April 19. So I welcome you all on the session. And inshallah, we are going to start session 6 on the topic of TAUHEED and SHIRK. So let's start on this. Bismillah Rahman Rahim. So the topic today is TAUHEED and SHIRK. So before we go into further details, let's have a recitation of the Holy Quran. The verse number 48 of Surah An-Nisa. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inna Allaha la yaghfiru an yushraka bihi wa yaghfiru ma duna zalika liman yasha wa man yushrik billahi faqad iftara isman azima. Indeed, Allah does not forgive associating others with Him in worship, but forgives anything else of whoever He wills. And whoever associates others with Allah has indeed committed a grave sin. Go to the next verse, which I have presented here for the same topic. وَإِذْ لُقْمَانُ لِابْنِهِ وَهُوَ يُعِظُهُ يَا بُنَيَّ لَا تُشْرِكْ بِاللَّهِ إِنَّ الشِّرْكَ لَظُلْمٌ عَظِيمٌ. And remember when Luqman said to his son while advising him, "O my dear son, never associate anything with Allah in worship, for associating others with Him is truly the worst of all wrongs." This is verse number 13 of Surah Luqman. This is the chapter number 31 of Holy Quran. So both these verses are talking about associating anyone with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in worship. And we know this is the biggest sin, and this is the hadith of tradition of Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, Wasail Shia. The greatest of the greater sins is to attribute partners to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have been listening about it. I'm sure everyone is aware of the fact that we always talk about it. The greatest sin is associating anyone with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we'll try to little bit ponder more on this topic of considering the association of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is it called? What does it mean? What are the consequences of that? At least up till now we have going through the verses of Holy Quran and the hadith of our Masoom, which says this is the greatest of the greatest sin, is the shirk, which is association to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So let's go a little bit deeper into the topic and see what other details we have and what are the consequences and how should we avoid that. So get to the next slide. Okay, so what is Tawheed? That's what we wanted to go through and find out. Give me a second. Yes. So what is Tawheed? This is some very quick definition of Tawheed. It's indivisible oneness concept of monotheism. Although there is a lot of words in here, but just for basic layman understanding, it means that oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is no association of anyone. And that is what Tawheed kind of, go down to. If you go to the basic definition of that, what is Tawheed means, it's worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if we remember our own kalama, the basic kalama, which is the shahada of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and who want to recite the kalama? This is very simple. So one of my younger students would like to volunteer. Can you just recite the kalama, the Tawheed part? Anyone? Or should I call name? I'm going to pick Qasim or Askari, whoever wants to take the lead. Qasim?
Yes.
What is kalama? Just tell me, state for us.
The kalama?
Yeah, you know what kalama is?
I basically know.
Sorry, say it again.
No. What did you say?
Kalama, how do you give the shahada of Allah? Okay, I'll start with you. La ilaha.
Oh, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah Aliyun Waliyullah
Okay,
Wasir
okay,
Rasulullah
hold on. I don't want you to recite the whole kalama. I just wanted the first part of it. La
Oh, okay.
ilaha illallah. Okay, that's what I was asking for. If you don't know, this is also known as kalama as well. It is also known as.
I wasn't. I didn't
Okay,
know it was called kalma.
as long as you know it, that's perfectly fine. No issue.
Yeah, I know it. I just
I
forgot
know
the
you
name.
know it. That's why I was asking you. So anyway, so La ilaha illallah, what does it mean? It starts with negating all others except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there is no one worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So first of all, we have to negate everyone else. Any entity, any power, any superior authority, whatever comes into your mind, negate everything. And then when you say La ilaha illallah, meaning there is no God except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that gives you a clarity that somebody might, if you just say Allah is one and Allah is God, there is always a chance someone mistakenly say, okay, Allah is God, but there may be other gods as well. So that's kind of a misconception possibly. And that is one of the main reasons why our kalama is very clearly negating all other gods from worship. So there is no other God except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we negate first on all of the other possible gods or possible entities or any identities or anything which we can think of. It is a human, jinn, angel, or any other powerful being, if you will, those are negated. We negate everyone else except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is how the basic concept of Tawheed starts from. So the next point here it says, unequivocally holds that God is one and single. Now single, there is a parenthesis which says unique. So what is the difference between if I say single and unique? Can anyone elaborate on that? Come on, anyone, please.
Unique means special, like more important.
No, what is the difference between single or one and unique? Is it the same thing or is it different? If I say unique, what does that mean? And or if I say single, meaning one, what is the major difference between them? How would I identify to say, okay, that is meaning of unique or that is the meaning of single? How do I differentiate between them?
One implies that there could be more than one, and single implies that, or unique implies that there is no one else like that.
Okay, yeah, you are right. That's perfectly fine. But there is another on adding on to that would be that, well, unique means there is no one equivalent or even resemblance about it. That is one. Second, it cannot be divided. Meaning, if you have a number one in front of you, the number one can be added, multiplied, divided, or even subtracted. Or divided means it could be half, or it could be a quarter, or it could be 1/8, or whatever. You can go on and on and on. But that doesn't, one or single doesn't actually translate it very well. That is the problem of the English language. So we have to come up with other words in order to explain our objective here. Unique is not 100% where we want it to be, but at least it is a little bit closer than saying one or single. So that's the major, explanation of that this is not one. This means more than one, or it cannot be divided. It cannot be broken into, or it cannot be, have pieces of that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one identity which cannot be broken, which cannot be divided, which cannot be given portion of fact. It is one unique identity. And anyone, if they can refer me to the holy, verses of Holy Quran, the surah, which surah is also resemble that, which is where it is coming from. Anyone can let me know which surah we're talking about?
Surah Ikhlas.
Surah Ikhlas, mashallah. That's great answer. So Surah Ikhlas is also known as Surah, what is the other name of Surah Ikhlas? Yeah, full we say
Surah TAUHEED.
Surah Tauheed, mashallah. That's the right answer. Surah Tauheed. Why is it Tauheed? Because the whole concept of Tauheed is being detailed out by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that surah, Surah Ikhlas. And we have talked about that surah a while ago in one of our sessions when we have gone through the details of that surah. So that is, I just wanted to bring it up so we can always refresh our memories in order to relate our topic of Tauheed, inshallah. So Surah Tauheed is one surah where this word of Ahad, which came up, and that's what we were talking about a minute ago, about the uniqueness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So another concept of Tauheed is submission to only one unique God, a higher power worthy of worship. That is also, we have discussed that is La ilaha illallah again. And this is the only power which is worthy of worship. Worthy of worship means there is no other identity or any other superior or higher power who would have worthy of worship. And we can go through the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in order to understand it fully, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only has those attributes and no other power have those attributes. And that also proves that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is worthy of worship, our worship. And this whole premise we have started talking about it, that Allah has created human beings and jinns for his worship. And that's the purpose of our worship. So we always have to remember why were we created and how do we do justice of the purpose of worship by worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala every second of our life. And we talked about it, what is the meaning of worship in previous sessions. So let's move on. What is the meaning of Mawahid? It's an Arabic terminology, but it also relates with Tawheed. So the person who believes on Tawheed is known as Mawahid. So who believes on Tawheed, and one who is monotheist. Monotheist is believing only on one God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is the, okay, someone is trying to send me, sometimes I look up the chat messages, see if there is something special. There was someone who was trying to send me a private message, but I don't think it has come through. So I just wanted to make sure there was something important which I need to look at. Okay, good. So next one, once we have understanding of what Tawheed and Mawahid means, let's talk about the opposite of that. Because other than without thinking of opposite, it's very hard to have the clear understanding of what we are talking about. So again, the next one topic which we are heading at is Shirk. So Shirk is basically opposite of Tawheed. Shirk means what? It means ascribing to or the establishment of partners placed beside Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, associating with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or his attributes, believing anyone or anything to be independent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is a very, very important point. I'm not sure if you're able to see my cursor, but if you are, then look up this word, independent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Independent, this is very, very important, because this is going to have a very important significance if we have to understand it at this point, and that would be helpful for us when we go into a little bit deeper into the topic. So believing anyone or anything to be independent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that constitutes the major portion of shirk. First of all, we said that anyone who is associating anything or anyone with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with a lot of his attributes, and we can discuss that further later on about what attributes we cannot ever attribute any living being beside Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the one who is Rasikh, and he is the one who is our creator. He is the one who nurture us. So there are so many other activities, maybe some of the attributes which humans can also share with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's another discussion at a different point. But right now we're talking about believing anyone or anything to be independent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If I am able to convey this topic of independency of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then I think we have success quite greatly here, because that's very important. Need to understand, I have to repeat it again, independent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So believing anyone or anything to be independent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is considered as shirk. So the person who practices shirk, just like Tauheed, Muwahid, and then shirk, person who do shirk is also known as mushrik. The mushrik is who performs shirk. One who is polytheist. So that's a simple meaning, which is what? Which is meaning more than one entity, more than one power, more than one God, more than one Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or associating anyone with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That means more than one. So poly is, obviously you know that, the meaning is more than one. Opposite of Muwahid. So again, if shirk is opposite of Tawheed, mushrik is opposite of Mawahid. Very simple. Okay. Next one. Now let's look at it. Shirk-e-Khafi. That's a very interesting topic, and that's why I brought it here. Mostly people have no issue, concern, or problems understanding the concept of Tawheed and Shirk, which is very clear. We have talked about some basic rules, and I think there is no difficulty in grasping those rules. So once we are clear with those rules, let's talk about area which is a little bit of difficulty. Most human beings have a little bit of a problem in understanding it clearly. So let's try to explore it only, and we can only do that with the light of traditions. So this is one tradition which has been repeated several times, but we have different traditions reported by. One is reports from our holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and also from Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. So this tradition has come to us several different routes. So this is how it is so important. So shirk-e-khafi, the hidden shirk, which could be associating someone or something without realizing that one is involved in such activity. Now that is a very difficult thing, and that is how it has been explained here. It is like a black ant on a black stone in a dark night. So first of all, spotting a black ant on a black stone is already a difficult thing. If you have a lot of light and then you still see a black ant on a black stone, because the black color of the ant on the black stone possibly would embed it into the whole thing, and then it's very hard for seeing the movement of the ant on the stone, because the black color would be giving a very difficult time to understand that. So this is also on top of that, if you go with a dark night, obviously that is the most difficult part now. So you added more difficulties to it, meaning how are you going to, it was already a very difficult task to do a black ant on a black stone. We all can understand that. And if you want to try it out, go ahead and try it out and you'll see, and we can talk about the results later, inshallah. But if it is in a dark night, meaning this is pitch dark and it's unable to see anything and the lights are off, and now you're looking at that and you're trying to spot it out, it seems to be a very difficult task for especially a human being which may not have that kind of an eye, because some animals have a little bit more vision in dark, but I know most human beings don't. They are very difficult to see in the dark nights especially. And now you're talking about multiple layers of black things coming in here. Black ant on a black stone in a dark night. It seems to be like almost very, 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 very difficult. So now who is saying that again? This is said by our holy Prophet, and again with Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. So if these holy personalities are saying something, that means this is a lot of weight, because they are there to guide humanity towards the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, in order to avoid shirk-e-khafi, we have to be extra careful now. It's not a very simple matter. When someone could do, say, okay, it's not a problem. I know what I'm doing, and then I would say, you know what, I understand Tawheed very well. I understand Shirk. I'm not associating anyone or anything with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I'm perfectly okay. And then I put my guards down. And as soon as I put my guards down, I'm in trouble. And we already have talked about it a minute ago on one of our slides where Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam has already said that it is one of the greatest sin. It is very difficult to spot it out if you are into it, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not be forgiving it easily, because he said that. It's also again in Quran, which we have recited earlier, that we have to avoid it. Put it simple and easy, we have to make sure that we avoid it. So how do we avoid it? That's another very challenging question which comes to our mind all the time. That first of all, so avoiding anything is first thing we first spot it out. Let's say you are driving in night on a road where there are speed breakers, and you are driving at a moderate speed. I won't say 100 miles per hour, but let's say you're within the speed limit, let's say 60 miles per hour, and you're driving on there, and suddenly you run into a speed breaker. And if it's a dark night, and maybe it's hard to look at the road if you are busy with something else. So in order to be avoiding that speed breaker, or be careful in order to manage that speed breaker, what do? What are some of the actions which is a common person would do? So any comments from anyone, please?
Go slow.
Yes, I'm listening. Go ahead. Anyone, please? So
Drive slower.
Mike, go ahead.
Go slow.
What are some of the things you do in the driving in the night when there is a speed breaker?
You could brake or drive slower.
Okay. Drive slowly. Okay, that's one. And use your brakes. Yes. And what else would you be doing? You're playing a video game, or just chatting with your friends while driving, or what else would you do? Anything else? Or just slow down? What do you say, Asim?
Keep your eyes on the road or thank Allah.
Eyes on the road. Perfect. Good job. Right. Eyes on the road. Very cautious. Very careful. Because now you have been warned. You cannot say, I was not told about it. I was not ready for it. You know what? So now if you are ready for it, what do? You take extra precautions. You make sure that you don't make any actions which would be causing you to hurt yourself, right? You don't want to hurt yourself or run into an accident, isn't it? So what you do, you take extra cautious, because you have been warned, you have been told there is a speed breaker and people have accidents while driving on this road. So that's what you would do, is you take extra cautious. You will be very careful. First of all, you will be looking at the road. You would not take your eyes off the road. You would not even pick up your phone for any text messages or anything. You just put your phone away and don't even talk to your passenger sitting in next to you. Say, just let me drive. This is a very careful area. I have to be extra careful. This is the way, because you have been warned. We all have been warned by who? No other than our own Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and our holy imams, that this is a place where people can trip easily, because they are warning us. They are our guide. They are our helper. They are the one who make sure that we stay on the right path. This is their job. They are doing it. So they are they love us so much, and this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is arranging to guide us that much. So there is a speed breaker coming in. What speed breaker? The hidden shirk. The one where people can trip easily, and people can get tripped easily, and they can get into a fall. And we already have talked about it a minute ago, that if someone have gone into this, unfortunately, into the, this business of hidden shirk, which is a greatest sin, and it is very hard for us to get any forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that would be a concern which a person, a normal human being should be having. That how do we avoid it in this night, because we have been warned. Now let us look up a little bit more on these topics. There is one area where this hidden shirk is usually referred to, and there are others. I'm not covering everything up right now. I am just trying to give you the more important parts of it, which is known as what? Riya. Riya, what is the meaning of Riya? Riya means showing off. Okay, and what is exactly means showing off? Which means what? We know that all our worships, and we have talked about it probably in the first or second session, that all our worships are based on what? Qurbatan ilallah, closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In case the niyyah is changed during worship, it would be subjected to riya, possibly to go show off. Meaning what? I mean, is it very hard to understand? No, I don't think so. So let's try to ponder on a little bit more, and we will all understand it very, very clearly. Okay? Here are some of the possible areas we need to look at. Go back and start looking at it ourselves. And we are the best judge of our ibadat. And we can figure it out, and inshallah, Allah, with Allah's help, and we can make it more pure and more khalis. Meaning, try to avoid all these things, which is possibly could be riya and showing off. Because this is a hidden shirk. Meaning what? Showing off means if a person is doing a salat. Let's take some examples and we'll try to elaborate a little bit more on it. If a person is doing salat, okay? Salat, we have to do, all of us have to do it like 5 times a day, right? Minimum, which is wajib upon us. And we do some additional salat if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the blessings of that, which are known as mustahab salats. So if a person is doing salat, this is very simple and easy. It looks like it's simple. Yeah, we do salat every day. It's not, what is showing off in there? Now consider that. If a person is doing a salat, and let's say someone else walk into the room, or the person is praying salat maybe in a masjid or at a center or a place where other people are looking at him, and that person realizes that people are looking at him. Now the point is that nobody else can tell the person is doing a riya or not. The person himself or herself would know it better. Nobody else. Okay. So we cannot point any finger on anyone, because we have to look upon ourselves and we have to make corrections if there is a problem. So we still have time to do that. Yes, we are living and we have time to do that. So we have to avoid this riya, the showing off portion of the hidden shirk. So how do we do that? We have to look upon our salat. So our salat should be only khalisatan qurbatan ilallah, only closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the niyyah for our salat. Clear? Nobody have any objection to it? If there is any objection, please bring it over. I hope nobody has any objection. So we are all doing the niyyah for qurbatan, letting closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the niyyah for the salat. Now let's see. If a person is doing a salat for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this person would have no question of any concern that if someone is watching him or not, or watching her or not. He is doing a prayer which he is supposed to be doing, because what he is doing is communicating to the Lord, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this person is doing his prayers, it is his responsibility, it is the job which he is supposed to be doing, and he is getting closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the niyyah for that, right? He is getting closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is working, and he is doing his job, right? So he should not be bothered about anything else around him. He should not be bothered that if someone is looking at him or not. He don't have to impress anyone. He don't have to prolong his sujood. He don't have to prolong his ruku. He don't have to improve upon his qiraat. He don't have to do anything which would be for a slight moment. Only for a slight moment he would have thought would be focused from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, moved from Allah to somebody else. That is considered also as riya, because for that time period, that person is not thinking about somebody else, that how these persons or people around him are looking at him, and how am I going to, my salat is going to impress them, or am I going to, do some additional mustahab prayers just to show them off. that I am very muttaqi and pious. All these thoughts, if a person is thinking about it, I hope nobody would do that. But again, if it is coming to a person's mind, just try to get rid of that. Focus back on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so merciful. He might ignore it. He might, accept it that a person has come back. But the point is, we have to be realizing the fact that this happens. This happens during all the other worships also. So salat, we talked about it. We do it every day, so we can easily relate to it and easily understand that if it is for showing off in any way possible, we should try to avoid it. Make sure that it's khalis, only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, getting to closeness to Allah subhanahu. Similarly, and the rest of them we can easily relate to if we can look at it a little bit more deeper. Say fasting. So why do we fast? Again, we seek closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why we fast. The holy month of Ramadan is coming very soon, inshallah. It would be only probably Friday or Saturday, inshallah. That would be the first of Ramadan. So once we start the salat fasting during the month of Ramadan, and alhamdulillah, many mu'mineen have been fasting during the month of Shaban and Rajab also. So whenever a person is fasting, especially, during the month of Ramadan, yes, everybody knows that everyone is fasting, so there's no question of showing off usually comes in. But let's say if a person is fasting during the month of Rajab, let's say, or during the month of Shaban, or any other month other than Ramadan, how a person would show off? Let's look at it. Let's say a person is fasting. So fasting is something which is very personal, which is directly associated with the person and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, the person wants a reward from whom? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why is he fasting? Closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If these things have been repeated over and over again in the mind, then the person is very clear. So now if a person is fasting and he, obviously it is some private business, right? So the person goes out to work or school or somewhere, and he meets with friends or she meets with friends and say, and without letting them know that they're fasting, they pose like this. Oh, I'm not going to drink anything. And they will definitely ask, your friends will say, oh, what happened? Why are you not drinking? Or why are you not taking a cup of tea, for example, or whatever? And they will say, oh, you know what? I am fasting because I wanted to do a mustahab fast. So that the whole impact, I'm not saying that telling others is haram or it is bad. It's not the question here. The point is, if this person is telling them just because he didn't mean that the other people will appreciate him or give him a pat on the back saying, oh, you are such a great pious person, or you're fasting other than Ramadan. If this person is not intended of these, responses, then if he casually mentioned it, doesn't matter. But if the intention is to get support or get something, acknowledgement from the others, then it's questionable. Because then the fasting, it's not khalisatan for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is a doubt now, because this person might wanted some recognition from others. And that's not the purpose of fasting. And now we're getting into more details, like Hajj, for example. Hajj is wajib for the people who can afford it at least once in a lifetime. Let's say if a person goes for Hajj for more than once. I'm not saying that the person goes for Hajj for any other reason except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But what if the person tried to boost up and start telling everyone, oh, I'm going for Hajj, not for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but for getting recognition. People would say, oh, you're such a pious man, you go for Hajj every year, mashallah, you're a great person. Things of that nature would give a person a possibility that for a second or maybe longer, this thought can come into the mind saying, you know what, I am really a very pious person. Just because everybody is telling me that I am pious, we have to clear those thoughts out of our mind. Shouldn't be thinking on those lines, because again, remind ourselves each time when this type of thoughts comes in, remind ourselves, I'm doing this ibadah just because I wanted to get closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I have my niyyah is khalis. I don't want any impurity to come into my niyyah. I am only doing it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I would be very, very happy that if nobody knows about it. But Hajj, it's hard for you to hide the hurts, because if you go for Hajj, most people would know about it. Now go to the next one, charity. That is something which person can usually hide, and most people can hide if they can, if they want to. It's not that difficult. Sometimes it is not that easy to hide, but sometimes if your intention is to hide charity, you probably could. That you wanted to give away, you wanted to help some, a poor person who is a needy person, who is something who need your help, go ahead and give them charity. But don't tell anyone, don't talk about it, keep their name secret. Do you want to, have respect of that person? So this is only because you wanted to help Allah subhanahu. There are instances that there are so many traditions we can read about from our holy imams. Sometimes when they do charity, they don't even want to show their own face and don't want to see the face of the person who receiving the charity. This is height of anything, because they want making sure that their niyyah is khalis towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no impurity in between in any act of goodness. Again, donations, we all know it. A person comes in, make a donation, anonymous donation, without putting their name, just put it in the box and go away. It's very hard for you to do a donation without, if you are writing a check, obviously your name will show up anyway, but then maybe you can bring them cash, maybe try some other means, maybe just letting one person know who's going to receive the check. Tell them, please do not let anyone know that I gave this donation. Making me anonymous, just put a receipt saying anonymous, something like that, just for the purpose of audit and all. But again, there are ways of doing it. What I'm saying is, any ibadah you can do khalis for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Majlis, the people sometimes they do majlis just for the sake of, obviously we love Imam Hussain alayhi salam and do the majlis just for the sake of, having his name and commemorating his message. And that's what the majlis is. And it's not about biryani or halim or whatever. So we need to make sure that we are doing is khalis. Now comes the very difficult part, which is most of the ulama usually get involved in that. And so sometimes it is very hard for them to, understand that. But some of the people who are not the alim, and if they make a speech, they want recognition. They want somebody to tell them, oh, you made a great speech, you were perfect, you were great, and thank you very much, this and that. But if for 1 second in their mind, if a thought comes in saying that I'm doing the speech only because I get appreciation from others, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help only. So this is how things could go into a different direction. Teaching, again, teaching has to be very important. Has to be only qirbatan ilallah. Studying not only for school, studying for Islamic studies. Islamic understanding the religion of Islam, studying for Hausa, for example, and things of that nature, helping others, helping out the others. Okay, just do it because you are wanted niyyah for all worship to get closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So again, the same thing again here. Worship should be pure without any intention of getting any rewards from anyone except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is a story of a man in a masjid. Probably you have heard about it. I'll go very quickly. We don't have a lot of time. So this story is about a person who went in a very dark night into a masjid. They wanted to, take a rest because he was a stranger. So he went into masjid. It was dark outside. There was a storm going on. So he just went into the masjid and to get, overnight, and there was no light in the masjid. Suddenly he felt there is someone in the masjid coming in. So he thought there is another man coming into the masjid. So as soon as he felt like it, he started making salat. And he kept on doing salat, and all night gone by and he was still doing salat just in order to impress the other guy, thing. Though the other person would feel like that, oh, this person is so muttaqi and this person is so religious, he's praying all night. And you know what he found out in the morning? That was not a human being, that was a dog who just walked into the masjid because of the stormy weather. And this all night long, he was just trying to impress a dog instead of the real reason of one person should pray. So this is a story which gave a lot of lessons. So we should be careful about that. Now let's talk about very quickly about some of the things which we have to be very careful, even though they are not come into the riya or the part of the hidden shirk. This is like an open shirk, but reason is we have to be careful with these things, and there are reasons for each one of those. So I'm just narrating a few. Praying in front of a lighted candle is prohibited due to resemblance to worshippers of another religion who worship fire. So this is the fatwas of most of the Maharaje, and that's what I have been, I mean, we can refer back to the fatwa if you want to. This is not allowed. This is considered as shirk because this resembles another religion who worship fire. So we're not supposed to pray in front of a lighted candle in front of that. Secondly, even though everyone would say, no, I'm not praying the candle, obviously I'm praying to the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but putting a candle in front of you, even though it looks like you are worshipping another religion, that's the reason why it is being prohibited. Next one is praying towards a grave is prohibited. So we have to make sure that when we are praying, even in a Raza of our holy Imams or Masjid al-Nabawi, the direction is towards Qibla, not towards the grave of our holy personality in there. So that's one thing which we need to, adhere by. Next one is asking from someone else, considering that they are the sole provider or fulfiller of dua is not allowed. We talked about it a minute ago about this point, that thinking that this person can accept the dua or help or fulfill us by what? By independent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is extremely important. We need to understand that point. I've talked about it. I'm just giving you the hint here again, because this is considered a shirk, which is independent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If it's not independent of, with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's a different story. That is okay. That's no problem. And this is similar to what? Requesting a doctor for treatment. Or so we ask a doctor to treat ourselves, right? The doctor cannot give us shifa. He can treat us with the symptoms and prescribe some medications and take care of us. But the shifa is only given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the important part is we can always request a doctor to help or anyone else to help. And there are individuals in this universe, in this holy life, where we can go and ask help. And they would be gladly able to help us, right? So this is important. But we need to understand that the Creator or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who has all the power, the supreme authority and the power for life and death, for shifa, for giving us rizq, for giving us, anything which we want to. Accepting our dua is the authority, ultimate authority of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we have talked about tawassul very clearly. We have talked about shifaat very clearly. And all of these we have talked about that, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permission, with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they will act accordingly. Meaning our holy Masumeen alayhi salatu wasalam can do tawassul, they can do also shifaat, and this is only permission, with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they are not acting independent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you go to them and ask for something, so the right way of asking from our holy Masumeen would be, please pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us. And we have talked about it whole detail last week and week before about tawassul and why and what is the importance of that, why do we do that, what is the benefit of that. Those are the topics we have discussed already. So I'm not going to repeat it here, but the point is, in this context of shirk and tawheed, the reason why I'm bringing it up again is they would do tawassul and shafaat for us only because they have got permission from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing will be done independently. This is very, 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 very important. Okay, so we need to understand that. Now, there comes another topic which I wanted to touch base on. Some of the things which we do, and that has been objected by others, thinking that we are doing maybe shirk in their mind. So let's take a question also on that topic, which was sent to me several weeks ago. Unfortunately, the brother who have sent the question has never came to my session, so I wanted to answer that to them directly. But since they haven't come in, but it's related to my topic, so I'm going to talk about it very briefly here. The question was that if we pray on a turba, which is, you are here, is it your question? I don't know that if you were there and who have asked the question, but anyway, I'm not sure if I'm repeating the question right. If not, then you please correct me on that and we can go from there. So the topic was that if we are, praying and doing our sijda on a turba, right? Turba meaning sijdega also. So if it is okay to do that on it or not, or some people have objected on that question. Obviously non-followers of non-Ahl Bayt. And the reason why we do it on turba, and we have explained it many times before, and I'm sure everybody knows about it, is because we have permission to do sajda on things which are from the ground, which cannot be eaten and which cannot be consumed. For example, the dirt, right? The dirt which is we can pray on. So it's not carpeted, so it's dirt. And this is, the best places to get dirt from is mostly get it from Karbala or Mashhad. So wherever we can possibly get, and we do that, and we do sajda on that. So there was a question which came actually, and I'm going to give an example, which happens to have it with Ayatollah Uzma al-Hui. And there's a great scholar, the great scholar who was, like 20 some years ago, he passed away. So a question came up from Saudi Arabia. The question was that, why do you guys pray on a turba and not on the ground itself? And when you're in Makkah, the ground is slabs, and we are permitted to pray on slabs. So that's considered as a stone. But in Masjid al-Nabawi, there is a problem because there is a carpet most of the places, and there are areas where you can pray without the carpet. So what he responded was very unique answer. What he said was that if you consider that we are worshipping this turba instead of something else, that means you're thinking that we are worshipping turba. That is your point, right? So if you take away the turba and you put your forehead on the ground itself, so would you consider that worshipping the ground now? So there was no answer from the other party that, yeah, that is not right. So the question which came up, and I think brother or sister, Zara Ali, okay, maybe it looks like a sister. So the question was regarding writing on the names of the imams of the sajda. Well, normally, okay, so you are her dad. Okay, that's the reason. So normally the question, this point is, if there is, the way it is being done is following. If you have a shubha, meaning a concern that, I'm not sure what names it is written on the sajdega. Mostly the names on the sajdega are usually it's Allah or something like that. But Allah is okay. And if you have a shubha on anything, just turn it upside down. That's the easy answer. But we have to look at it clearly, see what is written on that sajdega. And I am no alim to answer that question. Better to ask someone who taqleed you are in, or representative of your muqallid. If you are muqallid of a person who has a representative here locally, ask them a question or send them an email or contact them and ask that question. Send a picture to that mohar or sajdega and ask that question to them directly. Because if I were you and if I have a concern or a shak, if you will, I will turn it upside down. It doesn't matter. It's okay. And you can still pray on it, because you want is the dirt part of it, which is what is supposed to be doing that. So again, I am no expert on that, so I cannot refer to exactly what is written and how am I going to answer that. So I would suggest that if you can refer it back to the representative of your marja on that question, and also share with us also, so we will know about this answer to that question. So beside that, they have the tawassul and shifat. This is important. So if we ask something, and if we go to Rawda, and definitely we have different aimas where we go for accepting, getting our hajat fulfilled. So the objective of those is very simple. As we have talked about in tawassul and shifat, the objective is to go there and ask for their help in praying for us, making a dua for us. And with that dua, and because they are muqarrabeen, they're closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with their help, we get a little push. We do dua directly, and we also have their support and help to ask. And we already have talked about why and where they would do tawassul to us with only permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, there was another question which came up again. So I answered that question also. There was a question about, well, you are doing a sajda. Is it permissible to take the names of others during the sajda? So the answer to that is very simple. Mostly when we do a sajda, we usually do a salawat during a sajda. And what is salawat? Salawat is, again, it is something which we do for the prayers. Again, this is what we are saying is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have more blessings of Muhammad al Muhammad. So this is a prayer to who? To Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So basically we have talked about it last week or week before about the verse of Holy Quran where we talked about that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his angels do also send salawat to our holy personalities, or holy Aimma. So if we do the same thing, and this is only a dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when we're doing a salawat, that Allah would continue the blessings on our holy Masumeen, and that is no problem at all in sajda because we are praying to who? To Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there is no concern on that. And if we are making a dua again for anyone, independent of others, and we have talked about the whole details about the dua, should we do that, how do we do istighfar, and how do we say thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and make dua for others, especially our holy Masumeen first of all, especially our Imam Zaman first of all, and then others, brothers and sisters of all the community and everyone, and then make a dua for yourself. So this is the right way of, we have been taught to do the dua. So again, the point is, if we are doing the dua in sajda, that is highly appreciable. That is a good thing to do because we are the closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during sajda itself. So that helps, that's answer that question. So I think I am almost towards the end of my time on that because I was told last time that I was way beyond my time and that I didn't want to do that. So let's go to the conclusion, and then after that, I have a poll to ask questions from you. So before about the month of Ramadan. Conclusion. Belief on Tauheed should be pure and clear towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's very clear. We talked about it in a whole lot. Asking help from someone is allowed with the understanding that all results, good, will only with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So asking help meaning what? Meaning tawassul is allowed, is okay, is highly recommended in fact. And we talked about it last time. So with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they will not act independently of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the most important part if you get out of shirk and tawheed, independent and permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are the two words. If we clearly understand them, I think we understand the whole concept of shirk and tawheed. It is very easy to understand it once we have clarity on this topic. One should always be careful in making sure that the niyyah is only seeking pleasure and closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So any act which we are doing, anything, any kind of worship, it is the worship which is the daily worship, or it is the yearly worship, or it is charity, or giving it, helping out the needy, or whatever the act of worship we are doing, only and only niyyah would be pleasure and closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If our niyyah is khalis, pure and clear, there will not be any problem at all, and there will not be any concern or confusion will happen to our minds. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help us clear that thing if there is a confusion. One should be careful with riya and always review all actions that they are not resembling showing off. This is one problem which happens to a lot of people, and it is very highly difficult to stay out of that. And the point is, because we are human and there is a possibility we make mistake, we have to review it back and forth, our actions. Any action which we do, we always have to make sure what it is only and only for the pleasure and closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is not for the purpose of asking endorsement for someone, asking support from someone, meaning, oh, if I make a speech and somebody would say, you are great, you are making a brilliant speech, and I feel, like 5,000 miles above the sky. That's not the way it's supposed to be. If somebody would come up and start praising you, always respond, and this is to me first and then to anyone else, that always respond to say, thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If he has given me the ability to do something, again, thank to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has given me the opportunity to do that. Thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who have given me the blessings to learn something and to share with others. My only purpose was to help others, so we all can pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is the main objective of that, to get closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is not for the purpose of showing off. It's not the purpose of getting praises from others, because if that is one bit of it, tiny bit of it, that would consider it as Raya. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can protect us from Raya only if we recognize it, only if we make a decision about not getting into the trap. Shaitan is always there to put us into this trap, and that, we have talked about it, that lot of very significant, highly responsible people at a very high level can also fall into this trap. Sometimes they feel, this is very strange, and I've heard it from a lot of ulamas about it, that people thinking that they have become muqaddas. Only muqaddas zat is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're thinking themselves, okay, I am so, untouchable sort of, that I don't have to sit with other people. I have to be in an elevated state. I would not be, maybe stand in line with others, or maybe I have an additional place where I have to sit, or maybe people should respect me, or whenever I walk into the building, everybody should stand up and kiss my hand or something. I mean, I'm just giving example because this has been given to me by different, very highly ulamas, which are at a very high level, and they don't want anyone to come and kiss their hands or to things of that nature, even though they have earned that position. But again, because they understand this whole business very clearly, this every ibadat is only for the pleasure and closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they don't want any riya to come anywhere close to them. And that is how the ulamas are. This is how they behavior, they portray us, to us, people like us who are nothing in front of those ulamas, because they've spent all their life in not only learning the ulum of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam, but teaching the ulum of Ahlul Bayt salam for everyone. And the only purpose is, again, seeking closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the only reason why they're doing it. So that's how we can stay away from Riya, and Allah would protect us, inshallah, from all of us. And with that, we will end up here, and I will open to questions. Before you go, I would want one question from all of you would be that during the month of Ramadan, I have been, AQAID, inshallah, will be having those events during the month of Ramadan, with the details will be coming out soon, inshallah. My session is scheduled for Sundays, which is Sunday today as well. But I have a question which I wanted to ask you also, that in addition to that sessions, which inshallah AQAID is performing, and it will be established, and it will be the whole month, and definitely other speakers are there, and you are all encouraged to please participate in AQAID events. Other than that, my question would be that I would like to have some additional sessions of continuing with the same topic of TAUHEED and the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. During Ramadan, my topic will be a little bit different. It relates to Ramadan and Quran, inshallah. So that's a different discussion. When I go to that topic, I'll talk about it. But for now, for all of you who are attending the topics of TAUHEED, my question to you, I'll give you a short survey, and I would like you to answer that question. I have proposed some times where I would like to do this sessions, if you are interested again, and those would be only on the topic of TAUHEED. So with that, I am going to put the other survey question here, and I would like all of you who would be interested to respond back by chat window. And there are 4 answers to the question, and I would like you to please answer those questions by selecting only one answer. So let me see if I can share my screen again and put you those questions so we can all go through that. But before that, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask. If there are any question on this topic today, before that, I will then go to the question. So I'll wait a couple of minutes and wait for the questions, if any, before I can go to the survey. Any questions, please? Any questions? Everybody hear them? Okay, let me see. What is your topic? Chat. Where is it? Give me a second. Okay, can you elaborate briefly on the concept of sajda shukr that some people perform when on ziyarat to alams, etc.? Okay. Well, I can answer that question not here, but I would prefer to answer it independently on a one-to-one basis, because there is a lot of discussion about it, and I don't want to get into the details of that because of various reasons. So if you have sent me a question, I will answer to you directly and personally, because I have some views about it and I can discuss that with you. It may not be, beneficial for everyone else. So thank you for that question, but I will get to that. Anything else? Would you word a dua in regards to my above question? Where is your above question? Okay, please. Something in tawassul. Okay, very good question. Very good question. Okay, we talked about that question a little bit last time when we were saying that when we are addressing to our holy Masumeen. So the wording of that question could be one of the way. I mean, you can always have a choice of your method of getting to that question, which would be that holy Masum whom I have been addressing, I want your help in requesting this, whatever that thing would be, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I would request you to please pray for me. And that's the approach we would be getting, not asking directly. I mean, yes, going to the Holy Masum and say, okay, I have an hajat which I want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to fulfill, and I would need your assistance or help on it. If you can pray for me, if you can do my tawassul on that, I want tawassul with you to please help me with that. The concept is that the final decision is done by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He has the whole supreme power, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one who can do that. But Holy Masumeen can help us do tawassul for us, just like shafaat on the day of judgment, something similar to that. So the objective, if we have an objective clear, you don't have to be worried about the real words. We talked about it last time that if a dua comes from your heart, it goes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly. Again, if you are clear about your conscience, you are clear about the purity of the dua, you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the supreme power and He is the only one who can give us anything which is we wanting, but we are going through the Masumeen only for the shafaat, for a little help, extra help, and that's why we are asking for them to pray for us, to make a dua for us, and that would do that. You don't have to worry about the exact words. The point is that what is in your heart should be clear. In your mind, it should be clear that we are not considering our holy Masumeen in parallel with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are doing everything with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is how we should be approaching them. Okay. So let's go to the point. But plus, is there any way you could give a lecture about false practices? Okay, in direct Islam teaching practices which present false image. Okay, good. That is the similar questions which we have, brother has asked me earlier. So I would, be kind of running out of time. I don't want to prolong this session. I want to do a complete session only on this topic. So if you are interested, I would definitely want to do that topic, and that is a very interesting topic to me. I have done a lot of research, and inshallah I will come to that topic very, very soon. This is my promise to you. If you are interested, I definitely would like to do that. Okay, this is my proposed schedule, and this is, again, this is my own personal schedule, meaning it is on, we are doing it only on basic AQAID. It's not going to be published by IBAD. It's not going to go to the system of IBAD, because IBAD already have a program which they are going to announce very soon, inshallah, if they haven't announced it yet. And I am part of that on every Sunday. So this is how my proposal are. So what I want you to do is, please vote on 4 options. First option, session on Friday between 5 and 6, or 6 and 7, Saturdays between 5 and 6, 6 and 7. 7 o'clock is the time when IBAD session usually starts every day. So I should be finishing before that for sure. So again, it is up to you if you want to, vote for any of those 4, options here. I would really appreciate that. Well, these topics which I'm going to continue the topic which we are going through, the TAUHEED part, and more details discussion on that. The topic which IBAD session will be mostly on Quran and also on the Ramadan. So that is my topic on IBAD forum, only on Sundays, but that would be later in the evening after like 7:30 or so. Okay, so I am getting response. I really appreciate all of you guys responding back. So I have to evaluate it and figure it out which one is most people would go. We have to go by the democratic method of voting, and I will announce the results on basic AQAID platform, or would let you know guys within the next maybe a few hours that will be shown. So I hope everyone has voted. If you have not, please go ahead and vote for it. So 3 and 4, 4, 3. I think everyone is seeing all that because it is being on to everyone now. So we'll come to a conclusion. Mostly people are on Saturday versus Friday. And I understand the reason. Maybe only one vote is Friday. But we'll come to a conclusion soon, inshallah. And I will let you know the results of that, the survey. And inshallah, from there, we go from this point on. And also, I really appreciate all of you guys attending the session. And obviously, so on Sundays, the session will be in the evening, meaning that will be like 7:30, I think. This is IBAD's announcement. So IBAD is going to, school is over for Ramadan. There is no school during month of Ramadan, right? So there is no issue on Saturday or Sunday or any other day. But again, I have got the survey sent out because Friday, Saturday, because Sunday I'm already doing a session with IBAD at like 7:30-ish. Every Sunday I am doing session on with IBAD, but that's a different topic. So I wanted to continue this topic. So if you guys are interested, that's what the poll I've given, and if you have voted for it, thank you very much. And Brother Mazhar and Brother Nabil who have asked those questions, I'll try to address those questions, inshallah, in the next sessions. If we are going to continue with the Tauheed topic, inshallah, Friday or Saturday, whichever the day most people have voted for, and we'll go with that. And I wanted to talk about, there is a lot of discussion and research which I've done. Inshallah, I will present it to you. So if there are any other questions, I'm still here. We can wait a few more minutes. Otherwise, I will close the session. So I'll wait a few more minutes. Okay. Yeah, school is over. No, this time Sunday sessions are over, but the Sunday session from IBAD will be having at 7:30-ish with a different topic. Okay, so that's just wanted to answer your question.
Thank you, Brother Hussein.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for everyone to participate in this session, and I really appreciate that coming in. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jazakallah. Jazakallah, everyone. And I will send you the results, and inshallah, I'll send you the link for the sessions, either Friday or Saturday, whichever is the most people have voted. And we will continue with that. For the IBAD session, there will be a separate announcement coming from IBAD soon, probably within a day or two. So they have programs every night after 7 o'clock or 7:30, I believe, and just before Maghrib. But my session is a different time because I wanted to give time to all the ladies who are involved before the iftar time. And you know, it is important. We need to have an iftar at home, and that should be right. So that's my 2 cents on it. Anyway, we'll do whatever the best we can. And thank you very much again.
Thank you.
Okay.
Allah
Allah Hafiz.
Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.